Today's Business Plus Talent topic is resilience and burnout in the workplace. I'm joined today with my friend and colleague, Colin Rustin, who has, with me over the many years, coached individuals who've been in circumstances where, in fact, building resilience to deal with burnout has been a real problem. So, Colin, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you, Roger. And you're spot on with the fact that burnout and resilience are critical topics. What are the conversations you're hearing and engaged in?
As we know throughout the COVID crisis, lots of people began to raise their hand to say, I'm burnt out, whether it was frontline care workers or people who were in the service industries who were having to do all kinds of things to deal with the pressing demands that the COVID crisis created. And while that's more acute and intense, in fact, we've seen, especially in the last 15 to 18 years, due to technology, an increasing demand for always being on. In other words, the boss who has an idea at 9 p.m. who decides to send out a text or send out an email that's received is seen as immediately something I should respond to. Well, 2 decades ago, that didn't exist.
Correct.
And it was not likely. It was pretty much assumed that when you went home at 5, you were at home and you were going to be engaged at home. And now we see this, especially with global companies, almost 24/7 engagement that people have. And we know that that comes at an enormous cost.
That it does. Can you give me a little bit more specifics around the availability issue? Because it is 24/7 now, it is accessible, and the response that managers either expect or fail to communicate.
Yeah. There are certain realities about being human.
Okay.
For example, we know we need 6 to 7 hours of sleep every single day in order to be at our best. We know we need 6 hours or so of all kinds of personal things, everything from physical activity to what we do to get ourselves ready for the day, to breaks that we need to take, lunch or dinner we need to have. And then we've got this period of time where we typically, for many years, thought that was our work day. Well, technology has prompted a change in all that and has really altered that equation. And COVID accentuated the notion that people were working from home all the time. The large number of people who discovered that, walking from the bedroom to the dining room meant going from home life to work life, while brought some comforts, also brought some challenges. We know the brain doesn't quite work in a kind of linear manner. The brain responds to stimuli and it responds to pressing demands and challenges. And if you feel that you're always on, that means you're always in what I think of as the stress mode. And being in the stress mode has very specific consequences. So when you are stressed because you're now having to respond to the boss at 9 o'clock at night, or you're having to respond to team members who are in other parts of the world through Zoom calls at midnight, all of those kinds of things which have evolved due to technology have created this sense of a lack of boundary between work and personal life, and a loss of awareness, really, about the kinds of things we need physically for restoration. It is no accident that the increase in activities and skill building around resilience has exponentially grown in the last, especially 5 years. We see a topic that shows up in lots and lots of leadership programs and learning and development programs across industries, the notion of building resilience and how important it is to do those things to build resilience. Now, while the science for resilience, in one sense, isn't new. We know sleep is important. We know what we eat is important. We're now beginning to learn that we need to be brain savvy. What does the brain need to be restored? And part of that has to do with mindfulness. It has to do with managing stresses. And all of those things are teachable things to help build the resilience necessary to deal with all the challenges that are coming at people at all levels of organizational life.
I'm appreciating your bringing to the forefront the nature of the brain and what it needs to be its best. And also, you're being real clear that our pressures now are 24/7, which builds the stresses that create the problem. So how can we deal with managing the pressures so there's less stress? Because those two could correlate together.
Ironically, and it may not seem, this answer may not seem like a natural solution, by having a whole talent management perspective where you say, okay, look, not everything is equally important. So we have to create the kinds of clarity around the priorities of roles and practices at the leader level, management level, and individual contributor level. So when we do that, we naturally bring focus. That enables people to say, in the task that I'm doing or I'm being asked to do, how does this meet with the priorities we've established as a part of my role? And so by having a clear message about the expectations through roles and practices that are throughout the organization, you bring a kind of clarity about how we spend our energy. Equally important is a particular practice on building mindfulness, building a growth mindset, making sure that it's understood in our organization, becoming brain savvy is essential for success. And I would say, Colin, that what we've attempted to do in TalentTelligent is to use all of the evidence-based practices and research we can find to thread brain savvy content throughout our development material so that organizations and the individuals in those organizations can effectively build resilience to keep burnout at a minimum.